Welcome. I want to thank you for listening to this webinar and for taking the time to really be proactive about your health. My name is Dr. Julia Ward, and I'll be talking about what you can do to improve your immunity. What can you do to help resolve underlying chronic conditions or symptoms that you might be struggling with? I'm very passionate about helping people to be empowered and to reclaim their health. So this is our team. We have a nutritionist and health coach, a phlebotomist, and our office staff. I want you to know that we've been helping people virtually for quite a while. So thankfully, we were prepared for this crisis and we have what we need in order to serve you. I want to encourage you to eliminate distractions. I know that we've got kids running around and our phone can distract us. This information is so incredibly valuable and I don't want you to miss anything. So here's what we'll cover in this webinar. The first question is, do you think we have a healthcare crisis, or would you say this is a health crisis? Or maybe both. We're going to talk about the underlying cause of chronic disease that no one is talking about. We need to know how we got here so that we can know how to avoid it in the future. How can we avoid having to live in fear, and how can we avoid having a virus have such a detrimental effect on the health of our country and cost us so many lives? And I understand that this has been a traumatic and trying time for a lot of people. People feel anxious, they're worried, they're fearful, they don't know what to believe. There's so much bad information out there, and I want you to know that at the end of this, you're going to be able to walk out of here with so much more security, knowing where you're going, because I'm also going to show you how to take action to protect your health naturally and effectively. In addition to that, at the end, I'm going to give you an opportunity to receive a free 15-minute discovery call so that you can start your journey towards optimized health. Let me ask you a question. How many medications do you think on average the Americans take on a daily basis? That's both prescription and over-the-counter. If you look at the average American, the answer is actually 4 medications for each individual. Now let me explain some. I don't take any medications. I'm sure that some of you may not. But that means that for the average to be 4, it means that there's people above and below that. And the reality is that we have a major health crisis and we need to have a serious conversation. So many people end up like this elderly woman here with 5 medications. It seems as we get older, we get placed on more and more medications. In fact, I would say that on average, Americans end up fat, sick, and generally depressed. And I don't believe that's where people want to end up. I believe that some people just don't know that they have a choice. Here's the best news that I can give you. There is something that you can do to have a different health outcome than the people that you see around you. Perhaps your elderly parents or grandparents. There's something you can do. Let me show you what I mean. This is Kelly. She came to us a number of months ago and had been diagnosed with high cholesterol and hypothyroidism. She'd been placed on a bunch of different medications. She went through our program and now she is off of all prescription medications, and best of all, she's feeling great and doing this naturally. So let me back up a little bit. There's one thing I want you to understand. You may already be on medications. You may be in your 60s or 70s or 80s. It's not too late. In fact, I can tell you that no matter your age or where you are right now with your health, there is hope. You can always take proactive steps that are going to help you reclaim your health and allow your body to rebuild. Okay, so what we need to understand is that what COVID-19 really revealed in this country. We have 133 million Americans that have at least one chronic disease already. According to the CDC, 6 out of 10 adults have at least one chronic disease, and 40% of those people have 2 or more chronic diseases. Here's some of the ones that I'm talking about. Cancer, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, chronic respiratory disease, and even obesity. 70% of our country is considered overweight, and 42% are considered obese. COVID-19 revealed that 90% of the hospitalizations from COVID-19 and 94% of the deaths from COVID-19 all occurred in people with at least one chronic disease. It's important that we understand this so that we can do something about it. A lot of people are spending tons of money trying to get healthy in the traditional healthcare system. Insurance premiums, co-pays, medications, etc. And I would tell you that these are unacceptable costs. I think we would all agree that there are a lot of unacceptable costs in our current healthcare system. And we have unacceptable outcomes. This might shock you, so let me just share with you what we're spending. $3.5 trillion is spent annually on healthcare expenditures. That's a huge amount of our GDP, and it's not okay that we're spending that much. But I don't mind spending money on health if it was working. However, we are ranked number 37 out of 40 countries in our health outcomes. In other words, the health of our people is not better. We're spending double and not getting the results. 90% of that $3.5 trillion is actually spent on chronic health conditions. Those same ones we've been mentioning. We are spending per capita, that means per person, we are spending double that of any other country. In fact, it's 47% more than the second country on the list. 70% of all the deaths we are seeing are coming from the same top 5 chronic diseases: heart disease, cancer, stroke, chronic lung disease, and diabetes. So we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening? Why in the world do we have such poor health outcomes when we are spending so much money? And here's the question: is it wrong or lacking information? Where do we get our information about health? The answer is marketing, right? A lot of what we consider to be health education is just marketing. The adage I grew up hearing over and over again was milk. You can probably finish that for me if you also grew up in the same time frame, but milk, it does a body good, right? But is that really what science shows? Is that true for everyone? It's probably not, but that's what marketing has taught people, and as a result, we've accepted it as truth. We see unbelievable amounts of marketing for prescriptions. We are the only country that even allows marketing directly from drug companies. So I want to talk to you about my wake-up call. I was driving to work one morning about 7 years ago, and I realized that if I don't do something now, I'm going to crash. I was literally falling asleep at the wheel at 7:30 a.m. I knew that something was wrong. At the time, I was 45 years old, working full-time with 5 kids. It wasn't only the overwhelming fatigue, it was my inability to lose weight no matter how much I exercised. It was my non-existent sex drive, and it was my brain fog and mental fatigue. These problems seemed to snowball on each other. Extra weight, not feeling attractive, and no sex drive, all this put a strain on my marriage. So I went to my GYN doctor. I remember waiting to see her for over an hour, even though I was on time, but that was fine because I knew that she would hear my symptoms and find a solution. Unfortunately, when I told her what was going on, she seemed to brush aside my concerns. That's just a part of getting old, dear. I asked if we could test my hormones. I knew something was off. She said there was very little information we could get from this and no treatment if things were off. I asked about bioidentical hormones, but again, she brushed aside that suggestion, saying, "You don't want to start on hormones. You'll just start bleeding again." I remember sitting in her office looking at all the medical textbooks and diplomas on her wall, thinking, she really has no idea what bioidentical hormones are. I remember feeling angry that she was making me feel that my complaints were irrelevant and that my symptoms were just in my head. I decided to research my symptoms and discovered something called functional medicine. Traditional medicine is based on treating symptoms with a drug or surgery. Functional medicine is based on finding the root cause of a symptom and treating that rather than just a symptom. So today, at age 52, I feel I have more energy than I did in my 30s, 40s, or even 20s. I'm certainly in better physical shape now than ever. I was able to lose enough fat and build enough muscle to compete in a bodybuilding competition several times. Before my transformation, I felt mentally sluggish. Now my mind feels much more sharp and focused. Over the course of the last 6 years, I've been able to help hundreds of women and men get back to feeling like their normal selves again. I've been able to prevent and reverse many chronic diseases. I believe that everyone deserves to live their best, most energetic and healthy life. Now let me be clear. This webinar is about the healthcare crisis. My experience was just one example. I actually come from a family of cancer patients. My father was a chemical engineer. He worked for Shell Oil, which caused us to move every few years growing up. When I was 11 years old, my dad became sick. He was diagnosed with cancer of the liver. At this time, back in 1979, there was very little that could be done. I remember that it was explained to me that the tumor on his liver was the size of the tip of my pinky finger. And I couldn't help but think about how it was that something so small could take away someone so important in my life. I also remember thinking that if I could only understand why, it would perhaps make things easier. The time between his diagnosis and his passing was only a matter of months. A few years after this, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. We were living just outside of Los Angeles at the time, and she was fortunate to get treated with all the latest methods: lumpectomy, which was a surgery, chemo, radiation. She survived. Even though she had one recurrence about 6 years later, she's still alive today. And I tell you this because I don't want you to think that our entire medical system is bad. Medical care in the U.S. is one of the best for acute care. Car accidents, heart attack, etc. We have great outcomes. But when it comes to these chronic diseases that 90% of our healthcare expenditures are spent on, then we fall short. So there's another way. First off, we can be proactive about every aspect of our health. We can make sure we get the right information. We can make sure we eliminate risk factors. More importantly, we have got to make sure that we find the underlying cause of any issues that we have. We need to make sure that we boost our immune system, that we minimize stress, and ultimately that we are willing to take action. I've heard it said that we are in information overload. We're drowning in information. You can get information all over Google, but we're starving for motivation. We're starving for that chance to take action and have someone walk alongside us, step by step, so that we can get results. And so tonight I want to talk about the missing information and the wrong information that you have. There's 5 pillars that you have to be aware of if you really want to get the results and resolve the underlying issues that you have. These 5 pillars are simple. Number 1, we're going to talk about detoxification. Now, to be clear, this is not a starvation diet or a juice cleanse. It's a process of taking out certain foods and adding in specific food-based supplements that get rid of toxins from the liver and gut. At the same time, it also helps heal leaky gut, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We've got to understand nutrition. I'm sure you all have heard, but nutrition and the foods we eat have changed dramatically compared to what it was 40 years ago. So it's even more important that we understand the right nutrients for our body. There's so much bad information on the internet that's telling us to eat this and eat that or avoid this or that. I want to show you what good nutrition looks like, and I promise you it's easy and sustainable and you can absolutely enjoy it. Fitness. You know, a lot of people try fitness. The gyms get packed in January, and a lot of people end up quitting because they didn't get results. But we're going to show you why you didn't get the results and what you can do differently that will ultimately lead you to experience better health. Hormones. Optimal health depends on hormones. They are the chemical messengers of life. They control how we sleep, how much energy we have, how much fat we burn, and all the chemical processes in our body. It's virtually impossible to lose weight if your hormones are not balanced. Finally, mentorship. That's coaching. Listen, every person in sports has a coach. People in business have coaches. Even in life, there's life coaches. But you know what? Health is no different. We absolutely need that mentorship, that coaching, if we want to take control of our health. All right, so we talked about the 5 pillars of health and how important those are to resolving your health issues. But I want to compare that and contrast that with what it is that most people normally have as far as symptoms. Normally, the first thought that people have been taught to have when it comes to health problems is, what medical condition do they have? What's wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with knowing what's wrong, but more importantly, what's our next thought? What have we been trained to think next? And that is, what medication or drug do I need? That is what's driving people to be on 4 or 5, even 10 medications, because they always think they need another medication because the pharmaceutical companies have spent billions of dollars every year through advertising to make us think this way. Think about what you see in the newspaper, the magazines, TV, Facebook. Everywhere you look, there's advertisements for pharmaceuticals. One of the most popular websites is WebMD. It's great because you can put your symptoms in the search box and it will come up with a list of potential problems that you could have. It also gives you possible drug treatments that would, quote, fix your condition. So guess who pays for WebMD? That's right, the pharmaceutical companies. I saw an ad on TV the other day for incontinence. It started talking about how great this drug is and how tough it is to have incontinence. And then towards the end of the second half of the ad, what do you think they have to do? They have to give this laundry list of side effects. Now in the background, what do they have going on while you're listening to all the side effects? Well, they've got that happy person that's running or jumping for joy. I caught one of the side effects and it said diarrhea. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I don't think these people would be so happy if they knew that they were trading the drips for the squirts. Many people are frustrated because they cannot figure out how to get free from the symptoms and the chronic disease, and they don't want to be dependent on medications. They're worried about the long-term effects. They're worried about things getting worse. And in America, you've probably been told that if you're on a medication, such as thyroid, diabetes, autoimmune, heart disease, high blood pressure, that you're going to have to take these prescriptions for the rest of your life. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you resolve the underlying cause, then you won't need medications. It's kind of like a check engine light. We don't have a check engine light, but we do have symptoms. Maybe it's high blood pressure or high blood sugar, or maybe it's acid reflux. We get a medication, we take it that morning, it gets rid of the symptom for the day, but by the next morning or even that evening, what do we have to do? We have to take the same medication. Why? Because it didn't resolve the underlying cause of the problem. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying to get off your meds. That's not what I'm talking about. I just want you to understand that there's an underlying problem, and that just like in our car, if we don't resolve the underlying problem, it's going to continue to get worse and worse over time. Other warning lights come on, other symptoms occur, and we end up going back. And now we have a second medication, maybe a third. We can't allow ourselves to just continue to get on more and more medications. There's a reason that most people just continue to go back to their doctor, continue to get more and more medications, and really don't feel like there's anything else they can do. The reason is insurance. We've been trained to think that health insurance is there to keep us healthy. I want you to understand that insurance is there to keep you alive, not to keep you healthy. Why do I say this? You have to understand that all medical insurances follow the standard set by Medicare. Now, even if you're not on Medicare, understand that Medicare sets the standards for every other insurance company. And yet so many times I hear people say, oh, I can't do that because my insurance won't pay for it. Here's what Medicare's guideline is. Care that seeks to prevent disease, to promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. In other words, care that seeks to correct the underlying cause, finding and correcting the underlying cause, that's not considered medically necessary. So care that promotes health, prolongs life, and enhances the quality of life is not medically necessary? Basically, insurance will pay for care that helps to keep you alive. Hospitalizations, surgeries, drugs, but it will do nothing to prevent you from getting there in the first place. The problem is that this system, combined with our poor diets and our constant exposure to toxins, causes us to spiral out of control towards being sick, fat, and depressed. They don't pay for what it takes for you to resolve the underlying cause. Yet that is what it's going to take for you to have a different outcome in regards to your health. Now, I believe that most doctors are absolutely caring. I believe we want to help people, but we are handcuffed by a system that tells us what we can and cannot do. And so I chose to step outside the box and do something different. And as a result, I feel better now than I have in years, even better than I did in my 20s. If you're willing to do something different, you can also achieve this kind of optimal health. Here's the question. How many would say that health is our greatest asset? And if so, is it worth investing in? This is another example of a patient that we helped. Brigitte came to us with having digestive issues, food allergies. She was on a bunch of different medications. And after working with us, she feels better than she has in over 15 years. And we've helped countless of people. And people have told us that this is the best investment that they've ever made in their life. So if you're going to make a change, then you have to have motivation. We're drowning with information, but we're starving for motivation. We've got to understand that we all have a why. Something or someone that's going to drive us to take action and do things the right way. This is my motivation. It's my husband and 5 kids. I want to be super mom. I want to be the mom who never has to say no to activities because of achy joints or a bad knee. I don't have to say no to anything because at the end of the day, because I'm just too wiped out. And someday I want to be a super grandma who takes the grandkids traveling all over the world. So many people want to travel. They want to fulfill their bucket list. They want to do all these fun things. And that's only possible if we have our health. Our health is not just about us. It's about those we love, those who count on us, as well as those whom we count on. What does it look like if we don't make our health a priority? What does it look like if we are not proactive? If we just depend on the typical healthcare system and the typical insurance and just do the things that they tell us that we can do? I can tell you that our health continues to deteriorate, and as a result, we see much more check engine lights, more and more symptoms such as tired, sluggish, fatigued. This is so common. People get home from work and all they can do is sit on the couch and watch TV because they're just exhausted. Bowel difficulty. Or maybe it's bowel difficulties. So many people have digestive problems, IBS, constipation, diarrhea, whatever it is. But it holds them back. Gas, bloating, acid reflux. And some people have almost accepted them as the norm, but they don't have to. Depression is becoming a really big thing, especially with what's going on with COVID, and anxiety as well. The two really go hand in hand. Uncertainty causes anxiety, but you can gain certainty by being empowered to take control of your health, by taking control of your health. It's not the healthcare or the insurance system's decision, it's your decision. You have the power to be healthy. Sleep disturbances or insomnia. You don't have to suffer with sleepless nights or insomnia. Even though there's so many people that do, these are just signs that your body isn't working right. These are signs that there's an underlying problem that needs to be resolved. Weight gain. I mentioned earlier about the number of people that are experiencing weight gain. COVID has brought on more weight than ever. And some people just blow it off like, oh, I've just gained a few pounds. But listen, it's been shown through the research that every pound we gain is increasing our risk for chronic health problems. Obesity in and of itself is considered and labeled a chronic health disease. It makes all chronic diseases, including COVID, much worse. Here's another example of a patient that we helped, and she had all of the above symptoms that I just mentioned. And now she's feeling great, and she's able to give so much more attention and time to her 2 young kids. This is possible for you too. Mood swings and emotional ups and downs. You don't have to continue to live with symptoms like mood swings, being emotional or feeling irritable. I know so many times we get home from work and we just have so much irritability from the fatigue and all the other symptoms, And yet that's not what we want to give to those that we love. Angelica didn't want to be that way. She felt stuck, but she figured out how to change that. So perhaps you too don't want this anymore. Maybe you've even visited your doctor. Maybe you've had labs and you felt like, wait, I had labs and they said they couldn't find anything, or they said that everything was normal. But here's the truth about traditional labs. Lab ranges are really not helpful to determine the problems with function right now. That might be surprising, but I want to explain this because it's very important. Lab ranges are based on a bell curve, and a bell curve means that they have the upper limit and the lower limit set by 5% of people, which means that 90% of people have to fall within the norm or the average, if you will. Here's the problem. We just talked about a major healthcare crisis. We talked about the number of people, 60% having one chronic disease, and yet this is what we're calling normal. That makes our lab ranges just so large. We want to be not in the normal range, we want to be in an optimal range. So let me give you some examples. Testosterone. It has a lab range of 200 to 800. A huge lab range, right? So someone comes in and they get tested, say they're at 250, and they're told that their lab results are within normal range. That must not be it. Yet they may have all the symptoms of low testosterone, such as exhaustion, achy joints, not sleeping well through the night, low energy. Maybe they feel like they can't put on muscle, or they're depressed. In fact, the optimal range is more like 650 to 800. Do you think that a person at 650 is going to feel a lot different than someone at 250? They absolutely are. So we've got to address the underlying cause and get that testosterone up. But we've got to test so we know what we need to address. Let me give you another example. Here's cortisol. Cortisol is on a circadian rhythm. Here's why that's important. If they do a traditional lab, they do a blood draw first thing in the morning, and they may say, oh, everything's fine. But what they didn't know is that the rest of the day, you were crashing. Also, measuring cortisol in the blood is very inaccurate due to the short half-life of cortisol. In other words, cortisol is in and out of the blood so quickly that it's not worth drawing your blood multiple times throughout the day. And who wants to go in for 4 blood tests during the day? Not many people. Which is why we can do this through a dried urine test to make it as easy and accurate as possible. You can do it at home, send it in, and it reveals so much more. So we've got to have the correct testing. I want to talk about the 3 types of stress because this plays a huge role in our health. Number 1, we've talked about physical stress. Maybe there's old injuries from a sports or a car accident. For many people, stress is not being active enough. We have a job that doesn't involve much physical activity, yet at the end of the day, we feel exhausted and unable to do anything. Then there's the opposite situation, where people are addicted to too much exercise. Ultramarathons, Ironman competitions, this can actually be more damaging to the body than no exercise at all. Both types, too little and too much exercise, changes the way our hormones are produced and the effects it has on our bodies. There's also chemical stress. Chemical stress comes from the air, food, and water. Glyphosate or Roundup is one of the most common pesticides used on crops and at home. It grows into the actual fiber of the plant, so we can't just wash it off. The makers of this pesticide claim that it's non-toxic to human. And while this is true, the glyphosate is actually very toxic to our microbiome. These are the trillions of bacteria that live in our large intestine and that we depend on to produce essential vitamins, neurotransmitters, as well as protect us from disease. Some things we know we should avoid, such as smoking and vaping. Other things like air pollution may be harder to avoid. But also medications. Anything we put in our mouth that's not a nutrient is a chemical stress. Plastics are another example. Many can act as endocrine disruptors. They block our hormones' ability to do their job. We've got to think about what we're putting in our mouths and on our skin. We also have emotional stress, And we've got more than ever with all that's going on. Maybe it's work or home. Maybe it's someone that's not being friendly or not being loving that you're having to deal with. And so again, these stresses create major problems, and we've got to address them. Remember, let's get back to what we said. Are you ready for a wake-up call? How is it that we can actually reclaim our health? How can we do what it takes? Well, we said this earlier. We've got to be proactive. We've got to make sure we have the right information, eliminate risk factors, find the underlying cause, boost our immune system, minimize stress, and take action. And so I want to get back to the 5 pillars, because I believe the 5 pillars can be your wake-up call. Your wake-up call to say, hey, I've got to take a proactive approach to get my health back naturally. I want to show you each of these in a little more detail. Now, number 1, detoxification. I said it isn't a starvation diet or a juice cleanse. It's also not going to Walmart to buy a bowel cleanse, then having to sit on the toilet for 3 days. It's about eliminating toxins that are coming in and eliminating ones that we've already been exposed to. Toxins interfere with 2 important systems in our body, the liver and the gut. They are responsible for the proper production and use of your hormones. I can't overstate how important the microbiome is that lives in your large intestine. These trillions of good bacteria are responsible for producing the majority of neurotransmitters. These are chemicals in our brain that are either excitatory or calming. When the bacteria in our gut are not healthy, when we don't have enough of the good kind, or not a wide enough diversity, then we don't have enough of the building blocks to make things like serotonin and dopamine. This is also known as the gut-brain connection, because we depend on our gut to make these neurotransmitters. The gut and the brain actually came from the same embryonic tissue. This means that they used to be the same thing. The other major function of our gut is to protect us from foreign invaders. The gut is responsible for up to 80% of your immune system. This is why we say that a healthy gut equals a healthy immune system. There are several things that can disrupt our microbiome. Antibiotics, toxins such as Roundup, stress, infections, and different types of food. Detoxification is by eliminating toxins in our diet and adding in some very specific food-based nutrients that help support the natural detoxification systems in our body. Nutrition is extremely important because that which is eaten to sustain life is that definite purpose of food. It also provides energy, promotes growth, and repair of tissue. Now you might think that a donut can give you energy, and it can. It probably can sustain life for a while, but when we say growth, we don't mean around the midsection. We mean growth and repair of tissues. This is your body's ability to adapt and repair and actually function properly day after day. As we experience all those stresses, we have a general adaptive potential to handle stress, and when we get the right nutrition, that potential to adapt increases. When we get the right nutrition, it allows our bodies to do that. But there's so much bad information out there. People may think, oh, well, I've tried nutrition. I did Weight Watchers, Medifast, Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, whatever it was. Here's the thing. 98% of people who try to lose weight or do some kind of food, fad, or other diet all end up gaining the weight back. And 70% of those people actually end up gaining more. So we've got to learn what right nutrition means, because the wrong nutrition causes inflammation. The right nutrition gets rid of inflammation. We also have to talk about fitness, and fitness is something we have to take an active approach in. This dog's getting his exercise, but the guy's clearly not, right? Here's the thing, we've all had that rainy day. We've all been tired at the end of the day and think, oh, the dog needs a walk. But the reality is, we're only robbing ourselves when we don't exercise. But why do so many people quit on fitness? They go to the gym, they try working their tails off, running for an hour on the treadmill, only to have very limited results or even an injury, so they give up. But if you understand the right exercise to do, you can stimulate hormones that give you more energy. Exercise can reduce inflammation, increase fat burning, and actually allow you to sleep better at night. And that can be done very simply, and you can do it in less time than you think. You can do 20 minutes a few days a week and get better results than ever if you have the right steps. We must understand what those steps are because fitness, nutrition, and detox all affect hormones. These are the chemicals that run our lives. Here are a few body types and the hormone imbalances that cause them. The first one is estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance causes excess weight in the hips and the backside. It can also cause people to have problems with their menstrual cycle, not sleep through the night, PMS, and so forth. Men can also have too much estrogen. Testosterone is converted to estrogen. This is a process called aromatization, and it happens in our fat cells. The more weight men put on, the higher their estrogen goes. This leads to more weight gain and higher estrogen, which can increase their risk for heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. We've got to get these hormones in balance if we want to be healthy. The next body type is called the adrenal hormone type. That's cortisol, which is our stress hormone. It causes us to put on this belly fat that we've tried so hard to get rid of. Too much cortisol interferes with our thyroid hormone, interferes with our insulin, and creates blood sugar issues, and increases our risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. So we've got to address this imbalance and make sure that we're not doing things that create more imbalance. The next one is thyroid. The thyroid is the conductor of the whole hormonal symphony. When this hormone is too low, you gain weight all over. Again, problems with insulin resistance, problems with brain fog and fatigue, your hair may thin out. So when this shows up, we've got to address the imbalance and we've got to address what's causing the imbalance. Now the last type is liver imbalance. Most people think of this as a pot belly or beer belly, and certainly alcohol can cause it. Now you might think, oh, then are you going to take away my alcohol? Not necessarily. Look, if we're healthy and we're not toxic, we can probably handle a glass of wine or beer. But maybe we need to give it up for a little while to let our body get healthy again. One of the biggest toxicities that we have isn't just from our beer, it's from the chemicals in our food. It's from medications. It's from all these different things that we're putting in our body. So we've got to make sure and address these things if we want to experience better health. Here's another example of one of our patients. He was not unhealthy to begin with. He was just looking for a way to take his health up to the next level. You know, when I think of mentorship, I think of learning to fly an airplane. If you're going to learn to fly a plane, sure, you're going to get a textbook. You will want to read everything as much as possible. You can also watch YouTube videos. But when you get in that cockpit for the first time, you absolutely are going to want to have someone sitting next to you who's been there and done that. That instructor is going to help you take that knowledge that you've gained and apply it to walk with you step by step in the learning. In this case, learning to fly and taking control of your health for the first time are similar. We've got to have mentorship in anything we do so that we can become independent and we can become empowered to learn and to put that knowledge into action. I want to say a quick word about investment. People are taught to invest their money and then spend their money. They invest their time on certain things and maybe waste their time on certain other things. One of the things people recognize is that putting money into their home is an investment. That's being a good steward and being a good parent. They see investing in their education as a good thing. Maybe even into equities at the stock market, even though equities can be a big risk. And yet we've been taught, and this is part of the corruption of medicine, not to invest in ourselves. We've been taught that, no, healthcare insurance is supposed to take care of that. Again, the lie that if we have health insurance, we will be kept healthy. We are also trained to think that if there is a treatment outside of what insurance pays for, that is somehow, quote, fringe medicine or quackery. If you're not investing in your health on a daily basis, exercise, good nutrition, detox, supplements, then you will run a health deficit just as you run a credit card debt. Eventually, it will catch up with you. There are two groups of people who benefit from our broken medical system. They benefit from us being sick all the time, from being on 10 plus medications. Those two groups are the insurance system and the big pharmaceutical companies. Our patients continuously tell us how they consider us the best investment in themselves that they've ever made. In what ways have you been investing in your health? Where are you investing in your health on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? And if you don't know, then clearly you're not. We're talking about detox, nutrition, fitness, hormones, and mentorship together in a program and a system that allows you to know what you need to do step by step. It's like ABC 1, 2, 3. Not having a system will lead to failure for so many people. So maybe you've tried detox and you felt like it failed. You've tried nutrition and diet and exercise. Maybe you even tried hormones and you feel like, I just didn't get what I was looking for. But that's because you didn't have the full system put together in order. Listen, you have a destination that you have in mind. Again, I mentioned being super mom. Maybe it's super dad or grandpa, etc. Or fulfilling a bucket list or traveling. Whatever that destination is, it's just like in travel. If you're going to go somewhere, you type it in Google and gives you turn-by-turn directions. But if you miss a turn, or if you get them out of order, or if you don't, you won't make it to your destination. 94% of all failure is due to not having a system. That's the turn-by-turn and step-by-step directions that you need in order to ultimately reach the destination that's possible. If you've tried and failed, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It means you didn't have the right system. So I want to show you an old Chinese proverb, because this is important when you think about putting this system together. And here's what it says. Tell me and I may remember, show me and I will remember, involve me and I will understand. And that's crucially important, because without doing that, when we don't maintain the changes that we've gained. So it's the whole idea of being able to be involved in understanding and learning step by step. When we're involved and taking an active participant role, that's when it changes our life. That's when it truly produces the results that are possible. I hope that this has been informative so far for you. I hope that you can begin to see that taking control of your health is possible with the right program. We've got to focus on the cause and not the symptoms. We have to make sure that we correct the dysfunction, not just alter the labs. I know drugs will lower and get rid of symptoms. That's what they're designed to do. But if they don't correct the underlying cause, it just keeps getting worse, and for so many people, eventually ends in a crisis. That's a heart attack, stroke, or cancer diagnosis. If we want to avoid going down that road, we've got to correct the underlying cause. We have to address the body as a whole with all 5 pillars. We have to have a system and how we put them together, a systematic approach. ABC 1, 2, 3. They can't be out of order, or if we don't reach our destination, and we have to have a mentor. When we mentor people, we never asked anyone to do anything that we haven't done ourselves. Why? Because that's what a mentor is. It's someone who walks alongside you as you make these changes, and they've been there, they've done it, so they can help you, because it's never a straight road. And so when you encounter some kind of obstacle, you have a mentor there to guide you and make sure that you can overcome that obstacle. We make sure that you can be like Kelly and like Angelica and so many others that you've heard from that have said, this is my new life. I thought it was going to be hard, but I did it right. That's because they had a system, they had a mentor to guide them through it. And I can tell you they took responsibility for themselves, and that reminds me of Susan. Here's what she said. I am so happy that I found Dr. Julia Ward and her team. Her program helped me to identify some particular issues that were aggravating some of my chronic condition. She verified lab work, some food issues that I had noticed anecdotally. She helped me get enough thyroid support so that my Hashimoto's markers are no longer active and my hair is not falling out anymore. I'm also no longer falling asleep in the afternoon. I've lost a total of 14 pounds on her 3-month program. She has also made a big difference in balancing my hormones, and I now feel like myself again. In our current system, we're doing everything we can, but we're not correcting the cause. And that's why we keep seeing everything getting worse. If what we were doing worked, we wouldn't see more and more chronic disease than what we are. If we really want to experience the best health that we can, if we really want to experience all that life has to offer and get the most out of the time that we spend with our family or work or whatever it is, then we have to have good health. So how do we experience the most out of life? We have to stop procrastinating. Otherwise, we end up like this cat. Fat, sick, and generally depressed. Now again, this cat might have 9 lives, but we don't. We don't get many chances to take back control of our health and to do what it takes so that we can experience all that life has to offer. So here's the thing. If this has been motivating for you today, if you understand why all 5 pillars are necessary, if you understand how the system is necessary and how mentorship is necessary, I want to invite you to start taking action now. I want to invite you to book this free discovery call that I promised you at the very beginning. This free discovery call is going to help you start your journey towards optimized health. Here's what we're going to do on the call. We're going to talk about what you're going through. We're going to talk about how you've tried to address your health concerns in the past. We're going to talk about how our team can help you. We want to make sure that this is a good fit. We all have busy lives, and we've got a lot going on, and I can tell you right now that proactive approaches to health have become more and more popular than ever. What we want to make sure is that this is the right fit and the right approach for you. Here are some things to consider when choosing a provider to help you take control of your health. Number 1, make sure that the provider can write a prescription. So that is an MD, a DO, NP, PA, etc. Number 2, make sure that they have some functional medicine training, such as A4M or IFM. Number 3, check to see if this provider has been able to take control of their own health. One of the most common questions I get is, Dr. Ward, can you take a look at my labs and help me? The answer is yes. The next step is to sign up for a free 15-minute discovery call at the link below. Picture a day when you wake up feeling rested and without pain. Picture a day when a friend comes up to you and says, you look amazing. What have you been doing? Picture a day when you never have to limit activities or miss out on opportunities due to feeling tired or overwhelmed. We can get there together. So whether you don't have any symptoms yet, or if you're dealing with just a few health issues, or if you've been dealing with multiple health issues for many years, this program is for you. Wouldn't it feel good to have energy again, to have a sex drive again, to just feel good again? When my husband and I lived in Minnesota, we had a large backyard on a slope that went down to a golf course. We wanted to put sod on it, but instead of hiring a landscaper to sod it, we tried to do it ourselves. We had truckloads of dirt hauled in. We spent hours in the hot sun spreading it out and then seeding it. 2 days later, a huge rainstorm came and washed away all of our work. We should have hired an expert. We all want to save money whenever possible, but sometimes it's more cost-effective to hire someone who specializes in what you want to get done. We only had one lawn. We should have hired an expert. You only have one body, one life. It's worth it to hire an expert to make sure that body stays healthy and that life stays vibrant in you. Our kids were grateful that we installed sod in the backyard to play on. Your family will thank you for investing in your health so that you can be present in their lives. Now is the time to hire an expert. Now is the time to sign up for your free discovery call. Let's get started. I want to thank you so much for attending this webinar. And just to let you know, this book is available on Amazon, and I have one of the chapters in it. Here are some commonly asked questions. Number 1 is, does insurance cover this? And I totally understand that we've been trained to ask this question, but what do you think? As we saw in the Medicare standards, they don't do what it takes to promote your health, to find the underlying cause and actually get healthier. They just pay for more and more medications, more and more procedures. They'll pay for a doctor's visit and a lab here and there, but ultimately they're never paying for what it takes to resolve the underlying cause. So we've got to be willing to invest in ourselves And so the real question I think most people are asking is this affordable? And the answer is absolutely yes. I can't tell you how many different people we've helped from every walk of life. We've got patients that are single moms, single dads. I've got teachers, retired folks, people on very tight budgets. But here's the thing. If we're willing to invest a couple $100s a month for a short period of time, imagine what that investment will give you in quality of life and your destination over time. Imagine the investment, the short investment that gives you forever results for all the rest of your days. The only way we can do that is to have our health. The next common question I get is this going to be some kind of strange diet? And the answer is no. We don't ask you to do anything that we haven't done and that we have had thousands of patients before you able to accomplish. It's not hard, it's just different. But we're going to walk with you. We're going to take you step by step, and I'm not going to ask you to change overnight. We're going to walk alongside you, and I promise, like so many have said, they were nervous in the beginning because they had tried and failed in the past. But as they go through the program and become involved, they understand. And they understand that this is all possible. The last question I often get is location. Do I have to come to your office? If you live around our office, we are more than happy to see you. We have been open during the entire time, taking necessary precautions to prevent any spread of disease. But our program is designed to be perfectly virtual. So this means that you can do the majority of our program from home. Again, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to speaking with you.